Welcome to Voices of Homelessness podcast. I'm your host, Donald Whitehead. I'm the executive director of the National Coalition for the Homeless. And this show is an attempt to give you the true stories of homelessness through the voices of those who have had the experience of being homeless. We hope that today's broadcast will give you a real insight into the challenges, the barriers, and also the success that people have as they experience homelessness. Thank you for joining us. We also hope you'll join our campaign. It's the Bring America Home Now campaign, a comprehensive set of initiatives to end homelessness in the U.S. Today we have Rachelle, Ellison, and Monroe, Alise, and they'll be talking about their personal experiences with homelessness. And then we'll get into some in-depth questions about the issue of homelessness in general and their stories specifically. I want to thank you again for having the courage to tell your story. And I know you've done that in a number of places around the country. I'll let you know also that both of these individuals work as members of the National Coalition Speakers Bureau and also work on a project that's revolutionary. It's a project with the Department of Housing and Urban Development that allows people who have had experiences with homelessness be a part of developing products. So I think it's an amazing project, and I thank you all for your incredible work on that. So why don't we get started? We're going to do this alphabetically. So we're going to start with you, Monroe. If you could tell us in 5 to 10 minutes, if you could capture your story. I know it's very hard to capture your story in 5 to 10 minutes. So tell us a little bit about your experience with homelessness.
Absolutely. Well, for starters, my name is Monroe, Alise, and I want to thank you, Donald, for allowing me to come on and share my experience with homelessness. It's going to be very difficult to try to wrap all that up into 5 to 10 minutes, but I'll do my best. It started very early for me. Coming from a impoverished environment, my parents were born and raised in Washington, D.C., and we were very low class. I didn't know we were low class because everyone that was around us was low class. And I was surrounded by drugs. I was surrounded by, homeless people on the streets, but we all kind of like got by. When we didn't have any bread, we borrowed bread. When we didn't have any meat, we borrowed meat. When we didn't have anything, it was a very community-based community. My mother and father suffered from substance abuse, and I was taken to go live with my grandmother, me and my siblings. And that, for me, is where the feelings of isolation and abandonment kind of started. That laid the groundwork for all of the events that pretty much follow behind that. Trying to find a crowd to fit in and call my own was what I was in search for, because I was always different. As a woman of the trans experience, growing up in the wrong body in an urban neighborhood, in a low impoverished neighborhood, could be very isolating. It could be very lonely. And with my parents on drugs, and my grandmother doing the best that she could, and she's suffering from her own substance abuse problems, I ran into the wrong crowd very early. And around 14, 15, I had decided that I wanted to do the things that the crowd did. I wanted to partake in substances. I wanted to partake in stealing and, doing things that would eventually cause me to fit in with that crowd. It was very toxic. I went down a slippery slope with substance abuse, and I decided that I would, move with those people. I moved with those people. I got a place, and the toxic behavior continued. I didn't know anything about financial stability. I didn't know anything about how to maintain finances, how to pay bills. I didn't know anything about anything of nurturing a home, and I ended up losing that home. In the process of losing that home, I started to live from pillow to post. I started to couch surf. I didn't know that couch surfing was a form of homelessness because I became very good at it. There was only a select few of days, one too many, that I ended up sleeping outside. And I remember the first time that it happened, it was because the young lady that I had ended up staying with, she told me that I couldn't come back because she had company. And she was afraid that her company would like me more than they liked her. And so I had to end up sleeping outside. And sleeping outside is not a good thing at all, but sleeping outside in Washington, D.C. can be very violent and very dangerous for a woman of the trans experience like myself. And I knew that there had to be something different for me. In that run with alcohol, and that run with substances, and that run with loneliness, my experience and my relationship with hope was completely non-existent. I didn't know what hope was. As a matter of fact, I was hopeless, I was jobless, I was penniless, and I wanted something different. You know, I didn't find out that I had the will to live until I almost lost my life. I was attacked by 4 guys in Washington, D.C., just walking down the street in broad daylight for just existing in my authenticity. And when I decided that I wanted to do something different, I got something different. I sought out the help that I needed to take care of or manage this disease of addiction that I have. I sought the mental help that I needed, because mental wellness is very important. And I can honestly say that today I have the keys to my own home. I have a therapist. I have people in place that fill my cup spiritually and mentally and emotionally. I seek the help that I need. I not only just need help, but I ask for it today. And that is the most important part for me. And that's the takeaway for me, that not only knowing that I needed help, but knowing that I couldn't help me is where I got the help. And that's my story in a nutshell today.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I have a ton of questions, but we're going to hold off on questions. We're going to hear from Rachelle Ellison, but please hold that thought, because, again, I have a number of questions for you. Okay. You didn't talk about what you're doing today, though. You didn't talk about your movie career, but we'll talk about that some more. Rachelle, I want to talk to you now. Please share your story.
I am Rachelle Ellison, and thank you, Donald, for having me and asking me to be on this podcast. My home story started in early childhood. I come from a lot of dysfunction, incest, abuse, and being diagnosed with mental health disorders early on. And the incest and abuse caused me to feel like I was abandoned early on in childhood. So I started medicating early, like as early as 12 years old. And when I started hiding the pain, they felt so good. That's all I wanted to do. So it sent me into mental institutions, psychiatric units at a very young age. When I was incorrigible and got sent to juvenile facilities, and that was my way into the juvenile justice system. That started my incarcerated juvenile justice life. I got emancipated at 15 years of age and sent from Ohio and West Virginia to Annapolis, Maryland, to a program for individuals who were emancipated. And I became promiscuous. I started having children by different men. And when I started hiding the pain, they felt so good. That's all I wanted to do. So it sent me into mental institutions, psychiatric units at a very young age. I wasn't taught how to be a mother. I thought if you didn't hit me, you didn't love me. Of course, I was in domestic violent relationships. I was in very abusive, everything. I had nothing healthy. My children ended up getting taken away, but of course I was medicating, because that's all I knew how to do was medicate. My children got taken away, and one of my children died in my addiction. I ended up marrying a man from Washington, D.C., who brought me to D.C. in the early 90s, and he himself was a hustler from Washington for drugs. And of course I was still on drugs. And when he went to prison, we had a child, and I ended up giving her to his family. And I hit the streets of the nation's capital when I was homeless for 17 consecutive years on the streets of the nation's capital. And as Monroe stated, it's very violent being homeless on the streets of Washington, and especially for a woman out there by herself. I have a few family members out there, but they couldn't go with me everywhere I went. So I experienced a lot of violence, a lot of domestic violence still in this. And I thought all hope was gone. I thought I was going to die in the street. And again, I was diagnosed with more mental illnesses. And I was resigned to die in the street, but I started going to soup kitchens and people started seeing some potential in me that I didn't see in myself. So actually, a permanent supportive housing program reached out to me and actually put me in a mental health crisis shelter for 9 days and took me to look at 3 apartments. And in 2009, I got housed by permanent supportive housing. And you don't have to address your mental health issues or your substance abuse issues. But in 2014, I kind of just had enough and I got clean and sober, made it 6 to 2014. So I just acknowledged 7 years clean and sober. And I decided that I wanted to come back and help people just like me. So I actually got certified by Department of Behavioral Health. I'm a mental health certified peer. Today, I'm a recovery coach. I'm a speaker with the Speakers Bureau of the National Coalition for the Homeless, and I'm a dual major at Strayer University, getting my psychology degree and my Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice with a focus on criminal behavior because I'm also a returning citizen. I was in and out the prison systems. So being homeless in the nation's capital is very dark, but there's always hope because Monroe and I said before you today, sharing our experience. And I'm so honored to be asked to speak on this podcast because I want others to know that there's resources out there and there's nothing wrong with getting help for your mental health. That's a stigma that we need to be able to break.
So thank you very much for your stories and really appreciate just the depth that you shared just now. One really important thing I want to do is, the goal of this show is to address stereotypes. And so I'm going to ask you to react to one of the biggest stereotypes. There's this idea out there, and people repeat it all the time, that people want to be homeless. So could either of you tell me how much you wanted to be homeless when you were actually in your homeless situation?
I didn't want to be homeless at all. No.
I never wanted to be homeless either. I didn't grow up. I wasn't a little girl saying, "Oh, I can't wait to be homeless when I grow up." I did not want to be homeless, and it was a very, very scary situation. It was, I was in a lot of pain homeless. I mean, you feel like you're invisible. You feel like nobody knows you exist. When you actually just are dying for someone just to know that you or ask you what your story is or what your name is even, because people look at you like you don't even have a name.
And it's interesting. People kind of characterize it when they haven't experienced it, of course, as some type of fantasy camp out experience. But both of you talked about the level of violence, especially violence towards women and people from the LGBTQ community. It's
absolutely.
And so for those that think it's just a camping occasion, could both of you speak to that as well?
For me, it was definitely the farthest thing from a camping experience. Something that was so interesting that Rachelle said was that, you seem invisible. And that is absolutely true. But it is also my experience that it seemed like everyone was judging me. It seemed like everyone that saw me was judging me, not only because I was a woman of the trans experience, but here it is, I'm on the street. I look like a couple of days ago, if not a week or two ago. God only knows what I smelled like, and just the whole judgment. And, it could have been self-persecution. It could have been a multitude of things. But at the end of the day, on the flip side of that, irritating because of bugs. But, sleeping outside is not a glamorous experience when you're on a park bench or when you are sitting inside of a park that is known for drug infestation or gun violence or abuse or rape or where someone was just murdered the next day. That's not a pleasant experience.
Rachelle, did you want to speak to that as well?
Yes, I was woken up off a park bench and pistol whipped for no reason whatsoever other than the man was just very, very high. I was gang raped outside in the street sleeping by myself. There was a lot of violence out there, and it's nothing glamorous to sleep outside on park benches or concrete. There's no glamour to it whatsoever.
And I thank you for sharing those really, really personal stories again. And the reason I want to get that out is one of the things that a lot of jurisdictions do is they think the way to solve homelessness is to move people from camp to camp, arrest people, and those we know are myopic solutions. They don't get to the core issues that are there. Now, both of you talked about experiences with substance abuse. We know again that not everybody who is homeless has either mental health or substance abuse. Now, both of you did express that, but tell me about the access to services. So there's a lot of people with substance abuse issues. There's a ton of people with mental health issues that are not homeless. But as a homeless person, how easy was it for you to access those services that could have been helpful to you?
When I was homeless, it was very easy to access because there was a million resources when I was homeless. All I had to do was say I was ready and just run into detox, and they would put you in a 28-day program or longer. And they've cut on the services so much that there's still access to the services, but now you have to have a referral from a case manager. You just can't walk in and say, "Hey, I'm ready, let's go." So I'm just happy that I'm one of the people that they can call and say, "Hey, I'm ready to go," and I happily help them cross that line and get those resources. But it's not as readily available today as it was when I was home.
Mm-hmm. I'll say the same thing. For me, it was a matter of being ready. It was a matter of being ready because when I realized that I wasn't the solution, I sought the solution and it was available to me. But I will say that people that have reached out to me or that I have experienced that need shelter or need services to help with mental health or homelessness, it's not as easily obtainable. Mm-hmm. It's not as easily obtainable, or I will say that it is easily obtained, but only temporarily.
So I want to get some expertise from both of you. Most of the programs that serve people experiencing homelessness were designed by people who have never had the experience of being homeless. And so today I'm talking to experts. I'm talking to people who have been on both sides of the issue. If you were talking to the Secretary of HUD, tell me what you think you would say was the most effective solution to ending homelessness. What are the kind of programs that you would put in place to help people get through the process?
Supportive housing with wraparound services. I'm talking about acting services with mental health, with housing, with job placement, with training, life skills training. Just all the total wraparound services with, detox in place if need be, with clinical clinicians intact. The same things that were offered to me. The same resources I use to elevate, they should have the same resources. And it's just sad today that they don't.
Monroe?
Absolutely. I agree 120%. Wraparound services, holistic. Just the whole mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, the entire, caring for the entire person, not just placing them in an apartment and saying good luck, or not just treating their physical wounds and then saying good luck, but a continued care, a continued assistance with the rehabilitation of the mind and the body and the whole process.
I would like to say where I'm at with the permanent supportive housing program I'm with. There's a doctor, there's a psychiatrist, there's an acting. We've done no more on, of course, I'm on community support. But in that one building, there's everything accessible.
And what about, let me ask you this, especially, so one of the things that we know is that the over-representation of people of color within the system, but people that have low income backgrounds in general. Now, when you were placed, and Monroe, I didn't hear if you were actually placed in a permanent program or you got that on your own. But Rachelle, I know you were placed in permanent supportive housing. One thing that I've seen around the country that really infuriates me is that people are placed You talked about the park where all those things happened, where there was, people being sexually assaulted and murders and all that kind of stuff. What I've seen, unfortunately, too often is that people are placed back into that very same environment. It may not be in the park, but the housing unit is in the exact same area. So talk about that with placement. Have you been placed in a place where the chances of you of succeeding were higher, or have you been placed in places that put you back into close to the same environment you left?
They put me places back into the environment close to the place I left. And unfortunately, that when I was placed in 2009, and that's why I couldn't wrap my mind around even trying to get clean until 2014. Because I was tired, but I made a decision because they kept putting me where there was plenty of drugs, and there was plenty of drug dealers right outside my front door. So it was like, okay, well, I got it right here outside my front door. And it made it very easy for me to get easy access. As soon as I moved in, everyone was curious as to who was the white woman. So of course, everyone was coming to make sure I wasn't the police. So everyone was going to get to know who I was. And when they found out I was cool, hey, so yeah, they put me right back into the same environment. Okay.
Now, let me ask you this, because sometimes people will want to go back to that environment just because of family structure, community structure. If you had your choice, would it have been, I don't know where you were at, would it have been that community, or would it have been a Georgetown or a Northwest DC with a little bit higher income? You answer that question for me.
Today I live in downtown Northwest DC, and today I know that I have a choice, and I can pick and choose where I live, and I have that right, and I advocate and I stand up for myself. And I'm even advocating to separate my mental health from my housing, because now I want to take a job that has benefits and I want a full-time position, which I cannot take being tied to this permanent supportive housing program. And I'm ready to fly and I'm ready to soar, you know what I mean? So now I'm fighting for that, to be separated from the permanent supportive housing program, because it's time for me to do the bigger.
Monroe, did you want to address that placement?
Sure, absolutely. For me, I think that being in the same environment that a lot of trauma happened in, it is definitely triggering. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's so pivotal to have that holistic support system, if that is where, if that is where you are placed, because you have the people that you can talk to, you have the places that you can go, you have those resources to help you out of that circumstance and situation, especially if you have family in the area and things like that. But what you said, Rachelle, that was so pivotal is that I have a choice, and when I was ready, when I knew that when I was ready and I realized that I needed to do something different to get something different, I did. But that was only after having the therapist conversations. That was only after addressing holistically everything that was going on and realizing that I am responsible for my recovery and I'm not responsible for what happened to me or what I went through. And so it's a combination of having the services available and also being 100% ready.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to piggyback off Monroe. Once I got baseline mentally and got clean, then I knew to help those coming in behind me, that let them know that they also had a choice and let them know their rights also. So I would really fight for those that are homeless not to be placed back in the same dangerous situations. Because there's people scared to even go home, that just stay outside and have apartments. Because they're scared to go home.
Mm-hmm. And so, to me, that's an issue that really strikes at my core. I really think we have to do a much better job of giving people the opportunity to thrive. And they can't thrive if they're reliving that trauma every time they walk out of their door. So I really appreciate you guys touching on that. I do want to get to kind of where you're at today. I know that you both do work on an advocacy level in the community, definitely getting out there and doing the work of the Speakers Bureau and telling your story in front of strangers, which is people may think that it's a really easy thing to do, but it's absolutely not. Just want to talk real quickly about kind of where you're at now. What is life like to the both of you? What are some of the things that give you joy? What are some of the things that are still struggles? So tell me what it's like today.
I'm grateful. Every day I leave with gratitude and humility because I know what I've been through, and I know that I don't have to ever go through that again. My peace of mind comes from being able to have a place to call my own. To have a sanctuary of tranquility, to be able to turn the keys, to walk in, and it's the same way that it was when I left. I don't have to worry about anyone doing anything, taking anything. It's mine. I am an advocate in the community. I am an activist. I'm a healer. I'm a spiritual advisor. I'm a connecting conversationalist. I am an actress. I have been casted on a major TV show coming out soon. In their second season.
You can't tell us about that, can you?
I cannot.
You can. Okay. We wanted to be the first to know, but I know you have to hold off on that for a minute.
If I could, I would. I'm really grateful. I have been blessed enough to see the year 34. Yesterday was my birthday. And I'm just truly grateful, and I'm ever learning. One of the difficult things that, if I could say that there was one, is that learning to love every aspect of the woman that I've become as a woman of the trans experience, knowing that it's an everyday, sometimes moment by moment, minute by minute process, and that constant reminder of knowing that the process isn't pretty, but it's necessary.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Rachelle?
Yeah, I'm kind of at the same level of knowing that it's not pretty, but it's necessary. I still do work, even though I'm not physically working. I haven't physically been actually working in the last 3 months, but I still work. Someone called and asked me for help in Indiana, and I just reached over to Indiana, called the Veterans Affairs and said, hey, I have a 74-year-old man sleeping in a car, and they got to work, and he's in a hotel, and he's being fed, and he's getting ready to move in his own apartment, and it feels so good just to help another human being, so I do God's work, and I'm rewarded by God. So that just feels good, and for me to know to have the resources to be able to reach, when God says to reach and help somebody, whether it's in DC, Illinois, or wherever it's at, it's just an amazing feeling to help another human being. And then knowing through my process that I have to sit still and just wait for what's meant for me. And sometimes that's not the easiest thing to do, but you got to be patient because, you can't see what's meant for you until it's actually right before you. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
That process sometimes is a little hard because we're so used to making things happen and getting things done. Because in the street, you're a survivor and you're a go-getter and you got, make things happen. But sometimes everything you think it's for you, it's not what's for you. You got something better planned, that's going to be there for you. So yeah, I'm in the process of recovery too. And I just acknowledged 7 years clean and I'll be celebrating next Saturday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's an amazing journey. It's an amazing journey. I would rather be living any other way. I've put my key in my door. I'm peaceful. Well, you can hear a pin drop in my apartment most times. And I just love the peace of mind, and I love being there for other people.
Well, thank you. And, it's really incredible that both of you do that. And, honestly, it's kind of unexpected because most people who go through the experience of being homeless, they want to get as far away from the issue as they can. They don't want the stigma attached to them. They don't want, sometimes they just want to go on with their lives. So it's a testament to your inner fortitude to know that you have decided to continue on a path of advocacy. So we've talked about what happened, where you were. We've talked about where you are now. So the last thing I want to do in this journey that I'm having with you right now is to know where you're going. So tell me what's next. You've already told us you got like a major film coming up there, Monroe, and we know that Rachelle is definitely looking to go permanent and separate. So what else? Is there anything else you want people to hear? What you're doing today is one of the things I like to say in my own experience was a gentleman told me very early on in my experience that to not let my situation be my destiny. And I think both of you are you exemplify that. You haven't let your situation be your destiny. You're going to other places. So please tell me what the new places are. What are your hopes and dreams as you go through this process?
My end goal is to be Dr. Ellison, the bachelor's degree, the master's degree, the PhD. And I just want to be the clinician because I want to open.
Rachelle, are you in school now?
Yes.
So all of that in school, huh?
I'll be graduating my new bachelor's degree soon.
Awesome.
In psychology and my criminal justice degree. Yes. And then I'm going to work with the bachelor's while I'm working on the master's. And then once I finish the master's, I'll get the PhD. And I'll stop at Dr. Ellison. I just want to be a clinician because I want to open Damar's House of Hope. That's my son that passed away. And I want it to be a resource case management house of hope for all the homeless to come in and get all the resources that they need to progress into elevations.
So you want to take giving back to a whole different level.
Another level.
I don't want to miss the opportunity to offer you my condolences. I'm one of those few people that are in the club with you, having lost a child. So my condolences to you. It's a pain that not many people can imagine, and it's not supposed to happen. So thank you for sharing that also. And I really look forward to working in collaboration with Dr. Ellison down the road. So Monroe, what about you? What about your dreams?
Wow. Well, I definitely want to extend both of my condolences to you both on that. I see it, doctor. I see it. I see it. I'm so grateful that I have the honor and privilege of knowing you personally and not only working with you, but knowing you on a whole nother spiritual level. And I'm grateful. For me, earlier this year, I had, I've been working on this project for a very long time. And earlier this year, it was supposed to be in the works and in publishing, but I had to put it on the shelf. But I see by the end of this year that my book will be out. I'm a manifester. Manifestation is my key. I manifested the role that I have coming soon, and so I try to be as intentional and strategic and purposeful with my words as possible. And so with that, I will say that my book will be out the end of this year, and I will have a major movie role.
Wow.
Movie role.
And I'm going to say, that's my sister. That's my sister. I love you, Monroe.
I love you too.
So my favorite poem of all time is called Harlem. And Harlem, they asked the question, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? And I could go on, but my answer to that is always dreams. Nothing happens to dreams. They stick around in special places waiting for the dreamers to arrive. Sounds like I have two dreamers that have arrived.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
I got a little emotional there myself. Sorry. But I do really, really appreciate the book. Your stories have really touched me, and I really appreciate all that you're doing and all that you've been through, and your willingness to come back and share with the rest of America. It is just, again, a testament to your intestinal fortitude that you're able to just really give us a glimpse of hope, and not us, but those people out there that are still experiencing homelessness. Thank you so much for today, and please continue the good work. Get your book and doctorate, and keep giving back. There's so many people out there that need the support. And we're going to end now because I probably can't hold it together too much longer. But thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you. And we're going to end now. And thank you all for joining the Voices of Homelessness. As you see, just amazing, beautiful people that are out in the community suffering. And I think what really got to me is that these two people are people that should not have to suffer in the richest country in the history of the world. So I thank you again for joining us on Voices of Homelessness, the podcast. My producer will get on me if I don't say it's the podcast. So thank you very much. Keep chasing those dreams, you too. We thank you for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in. I thank you for the rest of our staff. And you all have a fantastic day. And I'm going to ask the two of you to do one thing before we go. That's to go to our website, www.bringamericahomenow.org, and sign up as part of the campaign.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You have to. Everybody gets off the street, and everybody can share in the dreams and success that you have. So thank you so much, and you guys have a fantastic day. And thank you, Kalita, for producing the show, and Tyler for all of the production. This has been the Voices of Homelessness podcast. We hope you'll join us again next month as we address those underlying issues and you hear it straight from the voices of those who have experienced homelessness.